I'm just going to say a very few words about Nora the agency. Thanks again for accepting our invitation. Stefan and Ariana Hernandez are the co-founders of Nora the agency, a marketing, partnership, and PR agency located in Los Angeles and New York City. Founded in 2018, Nora primarily works with emerging brands in the luxury, lifestyle, and fashion space on the intersection of marketing and PR. Their clients list includes brands like LOQ, Regime de Fleurs, independent designers Shine and Motet, fine jewelry brand Astley, powerhouse beauty brands Yves Saint Laurent Beauty and Armani Beauty, and Studio Constance, a new brand from Proences Cooler alumna Rebecca Almberg. Nora has established partnerships with companies including Moda Brandy, Soho House, Barney's New York, JC's Rock Nation, and New York Fashion Week, to name a few. Nora has been featured in Forbes, Business of Fashion, and Fashionista. You can connect with Ariana and Stefan via Instagram at nora.agency. Thanks again, guys, for joining us this afternoon, and I hope everybody enjoys this talk.
Amazing. Thanks for having us. We're really looking forward to speaking with everyone. As you mentioned, we run Nora, and we're a boutique agency. We really like to focus on a 360 approach with all of the brands we work with on their marketing and their media relation strategies. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how they can all be used together for optimal effects.
So I really love this quote from designer Rosie Asseline. She says, "The industry is in a unique position. It can choose to finally change or keep going on with business as usual. But I'm also not sure what that means. I know it's a pivotal moment." And we love that quote because we can really feel the shift. If you didn't feel the shift before March of 2020, you can definitely feel it now given COVID. The fashion industry had to quickly move entirely digital. And digital had been gaining momentum prior to that, but we were all forced into an entirely digital world. Previously, to our knowledge, brands really started and ended with the strength of their retail partnerships. So having a celebrity clientele or press and Vogue being carried at Barney's, while we do miss them here in the States, would really seal the success for a brand. But now we see that while those avenues are still really important and they can have amazing effects, they don't guarantee the profitability or success of a brand anymore. There's more celebrities now than ever. Thinking about streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, there's just so much content. There are more social media platforms. And also, while press coverage in coveted magazines can really help for your brand's clout, it doesn't always equate to sales. So like Stefan mentioned, we wanted to discuss today and break down really our thought process for how we approach unique marketing strategies when we're working with emerging fashion brands.
So, you know, like Ariana mentioned, the retail side of the landscape for fashion brands is tried and true. You know, most are familiar with what it is and what the steps are. And if you ask the professional, you know, a designer or someone that heads up a label, they can tell you exactly what you need to do to be successful. You know, going to Market Week, going to Fashion Week, creating a lookbook, you know, doing trunk shows, having appointments with buyers at retailers, things like that. But when it comes to the digital side, that's been growing increasingly and becoming more and more important, especially today. It's, dare I say, a bit more of the Wild West in the sense that there's inconsistencies. A lot of people aren't familiar with what all the intricacies are and all the things that are possible. It's like, well, you know, if I'm a beautiful fashion brands have a great looking website and maybe great looking, social media, a good looking social media presence. And then what else? What else is there?
And we really try and focus on digital as well in our strategy. I think that retail is very important, and it's not to be neglected. There's a lot of strength in having an omni-channel strategy, so having some retail presence where your customers can try on the pieces, they can feel the fabrics, and also we know that stores can act as curators in a sense. So consumers begin to really trust the brands and then the styles that a retail boutique carries. We all probably have our favorite local boutiques and stores. But still, like Stefan said, digital is so important because it gives you the opportunity to reach a broader audience, no matter where they're located. So when we're coming up with strategies, we still try and remember that retail exists, and there are ways that you can curate your digital activity to also complement what you're doing in retail. So when it comes to marketing and PR specifically, one of the things we always say is that every activity should have a direct purpose, and it should be tracked or have the capability of being tracked, whether that's more analytically or numbers-based, quantitatively, or qualitatively, meaning it's a little bit less about the numbers, but you're able to kind of sense an impact or a change. We really don't recommend that brands do things for the sake of doing them. So an example might be so many like digital brands, they have a journal or a blog, but without a set goal or understanding even who would be reading the content on your journal and blog, it's almost for nothing if you continue to take your valuable time in writing articles, or if you're gifting product to an influencer simply because maybe they worked with another luxury brand or because they have a large following, and you can't really connect that influencer and your gifting back to a specific purpose. So in those instances, we actually recommend waiting to activate this marketing channel, or potentially even realizing that that channel might not be right for your brand at that time. So the digital channels that we focus on at Nora are listed below. We look at social media. So that can mean Pinterest, it can mean Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We recognize that Facebook in many parts of the world is really important, but for brands, it's largely a pay to play. So without putting dollars behind what you're doing on Facebook, it can be difficult to get organic discovery. So for those reasons, most of our clients focus on Instagram and on Pinterest. Instagram better for more direct sales and influencer relationships, and Pinterest, which is really great for discovery. We also focus on influencer relations. For us, influencers can impact your business and be either an aesthetic fit or a more like content category fit. And you work with different influencers based on your goal. If someone is more of an aesthetic fit, then you're probably choosing to work with them because the content that you can get out of it. You'll get some beautiful imagery that you can use on your website or on your social media. If they're more of a category or content fit, maybe they're actively writing or covering the category in which your product falls. So for example, if you're a swimwear brand, there are some influencers who frequently feature different swimwear designers. And so they would be potentially more of a category fit. Their followers go to them because they know that they're going to be able to discover some really great swimwear brands, for example.
And also when it comes to influencers, they're not all created equal, and it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is garnishing impressions or getting impressions to grow your audience, or perhaps your goal is to actually convert with sales. So you might say, oh, well, this influencer has 2.5 million followers. We should get however much percentage of them to convert in sales. But what we found is that that's not necessarily the most effective way to do that. A better way a lot of times is to find someone with a smaller, more niche audience, perhaps and we'll cover this a little bit more later, perhaps someone that has their audience not so much because they create content, but because of who they are in their day-to-day life. And people follow them because they genuinely care about their opinions and the things that they look at and consume and partake in, right? So that's another big thing to keep in mind with influencers.
Yeah. Another category that we focus on is email. But it's really important to think about where in the customer journey or customer life cycle individuals are seeing your email. Typically, it's after they've already purchased from you, or it's after they've discovered your brand and already gone to your website. And then they've proactively, voluntarily entered their email either in a pop-up window or in the footer of your website because they want to stay a part of your brand universe. So when you're emailing your subscribers, you're operating under the assumption that they already know who you are and that they already like your fashions and your designs and what you're putting out, which is slightly different than some of these other marketing channels where you're presenting the brand to individuals who potentially have never heard of you before.
Email is also one of the channels that we see with a lot of the brands that we work with, especially the more niche, affordable luxury fashion brands and consumer goods brands, that it really goes underutilized. But email is a channel, it's a pretty old school channel, but it's still very, very effective when used properly and can be used to not just convert customers, kind of bring over to the other side individuals who have not purchased, or bring back individuals who have purchased in the past, but it also can be used to deepen your community, which is something else we'll talk about in a little bit, and really add value, not just, I think emails get a reputation for just, they're like the annoying in your face, like trying to sell you things, but they don't necessarily have to be used that way. There's a lot of other more innovative and value-adding ways that they can be used that makes your consumers actually look forward to getting an email from your brand.
Yes. Next is SMS text message. This is actually a very controversial marketing channel because it's very difficult to make text messages feel luxury. And so if you are an affordable luxury or luxury fashion brand that is more on the elevated end, it can be difficult to even think how someone receiving a text message from you can really further that elevated experience. We won't be going into SMS too much in this talk. If you have questions about SMS, feel free to message us on Instagram. We love having conversations about text messages. But there is a brand that's here in the States called Cult Gaia. And they do what we consider to be a good job at incorporating imagery and also highlighting their best-selling products through SMS. It can be a great way to share short snippets of information with your audience. And similar to email, it's just a channel that is going to take some extra thought and finessing to make sure it doesn't feel cheap.
Like Ariana said, we're not going to get too much into it, but feel free, please, to ask a question about this. But SMS is one of those channels that the way that it's been used, it's been around for a long time, but the way that it's been used is generally very gimmicky, very seedy. It feels dirty. It feels invasive. But there's really some great ways to use SMS in a way that feels elevated and
like you're adding value.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk about different ways that you can do clienteling digitally, but SMS is one of those ways that you can message your customers and let them know about pieces that go together, show them outfit inspiration, and the open rate on text messages, even coming from a brand, is 90%. So for the most part, your customer is going to see your text message if you send it.
Yeah, SMS is potentially one of the main ways in the future of being able to reach out and interact with your younger consumers that aren't necessarily going in and checking their emails all the time.
Next is paid digital advertising. Because we're going to touch on this, I'm not going to really go too far in depth, but paid digital advertising can include, of course, things like Google keywords or Google AdWords, but it can also include marketing on Pinterest or on other social media sites like Instagram, and using your dollars that way. And then next is partnerships. So partners can really be leveraged in a variety of ways. Honestly, influencers are, in a way, brand partners. But we also think about leveraging partnerships for events, for physical events, for any sort of trunk show, perhaps, or a launch party. There are so many ways that you can naturally tie other brands, whether they're other fashion brands, maybe an accessory brand if you're women's wear, or a footwear brand if you sell handbags, but also brands that are completely outside of the fashion realm, right? So whether that's food or spirits, beauty, skincare, fashion can connect to so many different industries. And that can also be manifested with collaborative collections and products that we've seen popping up more now, and I'd say like the last 5 years or so. I think brands are really starting to see the value of leveraging another company's audience and bringing them together to be able to sell product to brands' audiences.
We're huge fans of partnerships at Nora. We do partnerships for all of our clients as much as we possibly can. There's a few things, again, someone asked a question about this because there's a few things that need to be lined up in order for partnerships to really work well. But if those things are in place, partnerships can actually be one of the most effective ways to grow your brand's audience, to build your community, your following, and in turn, get new customers. And it's something I think that's very overlooked. There's this, a lot of times, attitude of competition and wanting to take customers from other companies. But that, I think, is something that is an antiquated way of thinking. And really, brands can work together. There's 8.5 billion people in the world. There's enough for everyone, so to speak. So being able to partner with other brands, whether they're like you, like in your space, or in spaces that are auxiliary, kind of on the fringes of what you do, is a great way to grow your social media following, to grow your email list, to convert into new sales, and do all kinds of things. People tend to focus a lot on some of these other channels and completely forget about partnerships.
And then last is earned media or press, which most brands focus a lot of attention on, and rightly so. When we say earned media or press, we mean coverage in different publications, traditional media publications, Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and InStyle here in the States, all sorts of publications that you can get featured in simply because an editor really aligns with what you're doing in your brand mission, and they want to feature you. So it's a placement that you earn versus paying for.
Now, all of these different channels that we mentioned are important in and of themselves, but at Nora, the thing that I think sets us apart in the work that we do and the way that we think about all of our client work is kind of our cheat code, if you will, or our secret sauce. Is we look at everything kind of 360 holistically. Like we like to think of a business as a person, as an organism, or you could say as an ecosystem, like it says in the slide. And every single one of those activities affects the other. They're all interconnected. There's a thread you can draw between all of them. And so when you're executing your social media, your partnerships, your email, your paid advertisements, even the way that you pitch, who you approach, and the way that you approach publications, different forms of earned media, all of those things can affect the other and can leverage the other. So an example that's here is you're a brand or a designer that comes out with a new collection, and you could say, oh, I'm small, so I'm seeding to these different influencers. I'm just sending them things because
by the way, when we say seeding, we mean like a gifting.
Yeah, right. You're planting a seed with the influencer. So I'm gifting these pieces of my new collection to influencers, and the hope is maybe they wear it and people buy, right? Or that people come and follow me, or maybe your hope is that press will start to look into you because of the influencers wearing your pieces. I think those are kind of high level of things most people would think of, right? But there's so many ways that you can actively leverage seeding to influencers. It doesn't have to be a passive approach, right? So you can use it for social media posts. You can potentially use it for paid advertisements as a as seen on kind of thing. You can also use that to pitch press specific angles, right? You can pitch press various different approaches, and one of them can be, hey, these are individuals who are wearing these pieces, and there's publications that most of their coverage is on who is wearing what, right?
Mm-hmm. Or like how the influencer even styles it.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that idea of like the as seen on, because you're acting as like your own media. So it's great to pitch the media and say, look, so-and-so wore my pieces. They styled it this way, or I'd love for you to do a feature on our company because we've been worn by these influencers or celebrities. That's great. But let's say that you do that, and then you're waiting to see what are these publications actually think. Are they going to get back to you or not? In the meantime, like Stefan said, you can create your own media. You can send out to your email list and say, look who wore our clothing. Look at how they styled it. You can do that for your email, for your organic social, for your paid social. So you're creating the buzz and momentum that you'd really like to see. And that goes beyond just waiting on the influencer to post on social media and then afterwards being happy about it. It's you're taking it a little bit further.
100%. And you see, like, this is just influencer. Right? There's all those other channels, and for every single one of those channels, we could break out at least 4, 5, 6 different ways that you can leverage what you're doing with each one of them. Not just to work well together, but to amplify what you're doing in those other areas and make them even more potent. So here we were jotting down some of the things that are more unique approaches, if you will. There's kind of best practices for each of those channels, and we're not really going to get too deep into
it. Would be longer than 40 minutes.
Yeah, we don't have time. It could be an entire curriculum. But we thought, all right, well, what are a few things that not everyone does, or maybe aren't full on, well, at least that we have experienced or know of, aren't completely common knowledge or widely used. And we ended up coming up with these 4 C's. So one is using content creators as retailers, right? The second is commoditizing traditional experiences, luxury experiences. The third is that community is key, more so than ever. Community is key. And then communicating digitally. That's kind of the whole point of what we've been talking about, is how do you communicate with your consumers in a digital world when you can't get in front of them? So we'll cover each one of those kind of one by one slightly.
So the first is thinking of content creators as retail. So I'm going to first say that content creator isn't typically the word that we use at Nora. We definitely distinguish between what Stefan was talking about earlier, which is influencer, and then like a tastemaker, which a tastemaker to us is someone of influence who may not actually create content regularly for the purpose of content creation. It's not their full-time job. Maybe they're an editor, maybe they're an artist, maybe they're a chef, but
they could be a politician.
Yeah, they could be anyone. But people really recognize their style, and they recognize what they do, what they wear, what they like, and people admire them for that. But we use the word content creator because it worked really well with our 4 C's. But when we're thinking about a content creator as retail, really these individuals have been able to curate a look. They've been able to kind of search the web. They get approached by a ton of brands, and they've been able to strategically choose what they wear, what they feature, and what they're going to really publicize. And their followers know that about them. And so from a digital point of view, a content creator can almost be just like a boutique is for a brand. So the first thing to remember is that affiliate is key. If you don't know what affiliate or affiliate marketing is, don't worry, you're not alone. Affiliates are essentially anyone who shares products in exchange for a commission. So when an influencer acts as an affiliate, they are typically receiving some sort of compensation in exchange for their posts or for any clicks that they generate on the brand's website. In the past, for non-luxury brands, a lot of times that was visible through a discount code, right? So I'm Ariana, you can use code Ariana15 and get 15% off an item from a brand. However, when you're dealing with a luxury brand or even an affordable luxury brand that's more elevated, typically those types of discount codes is not something you want to share. But what you can do is still reward the content creator by giving them a trackable link. So if you see in this image, it's an influencer posting a pair of shoes that she loves. There is a swipe up where it says see more. That link that the customer swipes up on can be tracked. And so if they do purchase, the influencer can make money from that. We find that when you have an influencer who's an affiliate, they recognize that every single time they post or wear your item, it's the opportunity for them to earn funds. And so because of that, they start to integrate the product into their daily life. They're wearing in this case, the shoes, they're wearing them multiple times, which helps consumers to start to really trust the recommendation. It's not just something that they were paid to do. It starts to appear like this is their favorite shoe ever. Next is IG Live Shop.
I actually will say something really quick about that last point that Ariana brought out. It'll come across as something that they just really love. What's really important is at the beginning when you're figuring out who you're going to reach out to do affiliate with or to reach out to as an affiliate, don't just reach out to anybody and everybody, right? You want to find people who are specifically a fit for your brand audience, right? Who your consumer is, who resonates with your visuals as a brand and your product, and make sure that the affiliate or the content creator that you're reaching out to is in line with that. Because if they're not, then it feels very disingenuous and inauthentic, and consumers are very savvy and will catch on to that very, very quickly. And it can actually sour the taste in their mouth with your brand. But if there is a great alignment and it makes sense and you do that legwork at the homework at the very beginning, then it comes off as being very natural. And unless you're really paying attention, you don't even know that someone's trying to actively sell you something. And even if you do, you don't care because it just flows out. It makes sense.
And okay, so the next is IG Live Shop. This is something that's new, that's coming. It's currently being tested. but it gives brands, but also content creators or influencers the ability when they go live on Instagram to actually sell the products. So there in this image, you see that she's Bag Snob, she's featuring a skincare product. And then at the bottom, you can actually add it to bag. So it reminds me, I don't know if they have this in Latin America. I think they do. But Home Shopping Network, which is very popular for the older generation here in America. It's almost like recreating that, but in the digital landscape. So influencers have been going live for the last few years, creating really awesome, authentic content. And now they can actively promote the products, and individuals who are watching can go ahead and buy straight from the Instagram Live, which is literally the influencer being retail. And then the next example is the fact that some influencers have actually taken it a step further in terms of creating a curated shop. So they're using whether it's their blog or whatever the case, they're using that platform in order to actually curate and sell merchandise. So in this example, we have Blanca Miró, who started Basquiat and curates items and uses a dropship program. So, the company or the influencer doesn't even need to have a stock room full of product, but they're able to really curate the items that they would wear.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this too, and what makes it so effective is that, as a consumer, I can follow someone on social media that I vibe with their aesthetic. It resonates with me. And there's something you'll hear me say a lot is that there's so much content, there's so many companies out there, there's so much noise that it's hard to sift through sometimes, and it can be exhausting, and consumers can start to give up almost. And so if, let's say I want to buy skincare, I want to find some clothing, or I want to decorate my home, I might not want to go through 10, 15 different store or websites pages.
Each with like hundreds of items.
Exactly, just to find something that resonates with my style specifically. Instead, I can go to the page of a content creator who I love their aesthetic. I love everything they post. I love the pieces that they wear. I love the decor in their home. And I can go to their own shop that they have either on Instagram, or it can sometimes an entire website that they built out and curated with things that they like, things that fit their aesthetic and that also resonates with me. And that's something we're seeing becoming more and more popular and becoming more and more effective.
Okay, the next C was commoditize traditionally luxury experiences. So a lot of us that work in fashion, want to work in fashion, we've all been to some of the events, maybe fashion week parties, different experiences that are closed list. Not anyone can attend or take part in this experience. And that's traditionally how things have been done for years, for decades. But now, especially with the digital landscape, it's so important to make customers and consumers actually feel like they're an insider, like they're getting a special experience. So some of the ways that you can do this if you own or work for a luxury fashion brand. One is digital and physical activations, but actually opening those activations up to the general public or to consumers. These images to the left are from an event that we actually curated here at Nora for YSL Beauty, Yves Saint Laurent Beauty, in which we created small kits that had deluxe samples of multiple products that we would put together to create a summer glow look. And then one of Yves Saint Laurent's top makeup artists actually joined us on Zoom, and all of our attendees, everyone got that box in the mail And they were able to recreate this summer glow look on themselves during the class. It was a very special event that ended up generating a lot of social buzz, but also sales for the brand.
Yeah, a lot of times, something you've seen over the years is tons and tons of influencer events. So they're creating brands will create these experiences to get buzz, almost as a form of media, which makes sense, and it does work to a degree. But consumers are increasingly savvy, and the competition is fierce, if you will. Like I said a second ago, I told you were going to hear me say this a lot. There's tons of brands out there. There's tons of content out there. There's so much access to so much. And so a lot of times it's hard for brands to find something that distinguishes themselves. How do you pull away from the pack? So before COVID, we did a lot of things with experiential events in person that would traditionally be used for VIPs, celebrities and such, or for influencers as a form of, brand awareness. But then we started taking these kinds of events and using them for consumers, for our regular old consumers of our clients. And what we found is that this adds so much value, and
They're so excited.
They get so excited. They become advocates even more so than they ever would have been. And interestingly enough, what we found is, in a lot of these experiences, you provide them with product of some sort, a gift bag, or in this case, it was these summer glow kits. And what ends up happening is, because you provided them extra value and you made them feel good and you drew them closer into the center of your brand, in this event in particular, we ended up converting a ton of sales from the individuals who did the workshop. Thousands of dollars in product sales, which you would think, well, I'm giving them products, so they're not going to buy anything, but they ended up buying a bunch of other products because they felt good about the experience that they otherwise would have never had, or maybe even seen.
And then the next two things are gifts with purchase, ways to surprise and delight your consumer. Maybe you don't even tell them to expect it, but when they open their package, or they just go to the mail randomly, your top customers have received a small gift or note from you. And then last is packaging and unboxing. So really thinking about how you can make that experience special, but also, of course, being cognizant of sustainability and not being wasteful. And in that circle, we just noted a few things. Really remembering that partnerships can be leveraged here. They can really add value. For our Yves Saint Laurent event, we actually partnered with a California-based wine brand, and we were able to send everyone wine to drink while they did their summer glow. So that was our partner. We didn't buy the wine. It was a collaborative effort. And also identify your goals. So make sure you know why you're doing this experience and how it's going to impact your brand. You can help your customers or provide your customers an experience that's not related to sales at all. It's related to bringing them into the world of your brand universe. Or it can be an event that's geared towards sales. So make sure that you're planning with that in mind. Next, we have the note that community is key. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's important to really build your community through non-traditional forms of media. So we all want to be in Couture, in Harper's Bazaar, in Vogue, in Forbes. Very important and can't be replaced. However, there are other ways that you can find your customer, and chances are there's already an influencer, an account, a podcast, for example, another brand that has that consumer that you want. So we use the example of TA, which is a physical shop and also a website that actually launched during COVID here in the States, in New York. And on the far left, you see a photo from someone else's Instagram, Alyssa Coscarelli. She had TA take over her Instagram story. So Alyssa has over 300,000 followers, and TA was able to share their brand with those 300,000 individuals. Next to that, you have TA saying that 2 influencers are taking over their company's Instagram. So not only did they go out and share their brand with other platforms, they invited individuals to take over their platform. And inevitably, they received new followers from that. We also see that they were featured in various podcasts and, of course, the traditional media.
Community is it's something that is going to be a huge integral part of any of your strategies, right? Especially in this day and age, in 2020, community is something that's very important, not just because of potential partnerships with other brands. You know, your visual aesthetic, your branding, or your consumer are not in line with other brands that you would ideally like to partnership, they're not going to partner with you, right? It's going to feel forced. And also to consumers, it's so much more important now to feel connected to a brand. Again, I promise you, I told you I was going to say this. There's so many brands, there's so much content out there. What makes you different? Why is a consumer going to buy from you or follow you or wear your clothing and not someone else's, right? It could be just that it looks cool, right? But at the end of the day, what's really going to push people across that line over and over again is feeling connected to your brand and feeling like they're a part of your community.
Absolutely. And the last C was communicate digitally. So I just want to come out and say that digital communication does not mean it has to be like cheap or cheesy or commercial, or that it's not high end. There is a way to do digital advertising and emails and even SMS in a way that feels very high end and that is in line with how you position your brand. So it's a common misconception that we like to get that out of the way like right away. It doesn't have to feel commercial. If you look here for the digital advertising examples, these are examples from Miu Miu, from Proenza, and from Net-a-Porter, all of whom are doing paid digital advertising on Facebook and Instagram. It really provides a way for new audiences to see your collection and for you to have an outlet for all of the amazing content that you no doubt create during campaign shoots and maybe even if you do any campaign videos. And then on the right, you'll see this email. It's really hard to read, but it's from a brand called Kate. And it's a personal email in which they have said, we saw that you purchased X item and we wanted to let you know of some of our new styles. They've shown images of celebrities who are wearing these new styles along with on-model images. And you could simply reply back to that email if you would like to shop. It looks personal, but actually this is something that was done at scale using an email platform. And so this is something if you want to reach your customers and you want to really treat them as if they would be treated at like a luxury boutique, you can actually do that through email segmentation.
Yeah, you want to talk about the interconnectivity of the different channels that we use digitally. This is a great example of one because it's providing that luxury experience. You know, you walk into a boutique, you sit down, someone asks you your name, they give you a glass of champagne, they bring you items. When you go back at another time, they know what you wore, they know your sizes, they know what you bought, they know kind of what's in your closet and can build that experience for you. This is a pretty good example of doing something like that digitally. So providing some of that great experience, potentially even for the first time, and winning them as a customer via email.
Absolutely. So we'll just, before we open it up to questions, reiterate our 4 C's for growth as a digital fashion brand. And that's using content creators as retail, commoditizing traditional luxury experiences and making it open to all customers, not just insiders. Realizing that community is key and it's so important to build your community and not just relying on traditional media to do that, actually being proactive and finding alternative ways to find your community. And then the last is communicate digitally, and not viewing digital communication as something that high-end brands can't do well, but really finding a way to communicate in a way that you're winning over your customer and making them feel even more special than they did before. So with that in mind, we're happy to open it up for questions, and I will just invite anyone who's listening to connect with us on social media. We're always happy to answer questions via DM and just be able to exchange words that way.
100%. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, guys. This has been a very, very, very interesting talk. And now I'm obsessed about IG Live Shop. You know, I did understand when you said, you know, like older people knows this TV store system, you know, but I don't know. I just was like, what are they talking about? IG Live Shop. That sounds wonderful. A lot of very fresh and new information for us here in Latin America. It has been great. We have a couple of questions, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna make the first one. And well, I will get over of IG Live Shop because I do obsess right now with this idea. You know, we need to talk, Pau, very soon. We need to talk about it. But I have one simple and practically cheesy question. It's about emailing. You know, you said something very. I think it was Steven that said something about, you know, you can work on it in an innovative way. You know, please tell us, give to us some ideas to email, because, you know, I think, I mean, for example, me as a consumer, you know, it's true. I received happily some of my emails from brands because of the information, because I don't know, but a lot of them for me are like trash in my email. You know, it's like boring, and it's like, oh my God, again, you know. What can we do, you know, to change that mindset about mailing? I mean, and now with this new generation, you know, they are used to have a very direct conversation or very direct exchange with the brand. And probably, I think mailing is not the best way. What can we do about it? What can we reinforce our emailing strategy?
Yeah.
I just off the top, I think the first thing that you want to consider is what exactly is your brand voice when you're talking to your consumers. You know, who is your brand? That's really important, because that's going to kind of dictate the way that you can talk to them in email, the tone of voice that you're using, and the information that you can share. Once you kind of figure that out, there's a lot of options. Like, do you have any off the top of your head?
I do. So first of all, thinking about how do you add value. So you might have a new product. Let's say it's a women's wear brand, and I came out with a new style of skirt, and I really want my email subscribers to buy this skirt. Well, I can simply say I have a new skirt and include images of models in the skirt and have a shop button. But that doesn't actually add much value to the majority of your subscribers. Some people might purchase, but most will delete it. So for us, we like to think about what might this woman who's receiving this email want to know. They might want to know, what do you wear it with? They might want to see different individuals in real life wearing the skirt. Maybe they want to know a bit more about the fabric, or maybe they just want to know why I created this item. Maybe they want some more dialogue from the designer. Those are all just some content ideas. So it really boils back down to content. Second is segmentation. So if you have an email provider, a lot of people here use MailChimp, but there are many others. You can segment out people who consistently don't open certain types of emails, and you can use that to learn about them. maybe trying to send them fewer emails or completely different subject matter because you know their behavior. And then the third is more text-based emails. A lot of our clients have been doing that. It's almost like a personal note from the founder. So if I see that you buy a skincare product like a lotion, let's say, from me, I know it's not fashion, but just an example. I might have a email that goes out automatically, maybe 30 days later, that asks you how it worked for your skin. And maybe I make a recommendation that you reorder. I tell you it works really well with our facial wash. Or I ask you to send me a photo, a selfie. You can ask questions, and it almost looks like a letter that came from the founder. But it didn't. It was automated. And so that type of communication has been working really, really well for brands. It's like you're in a boutique store and the sales associate is trying to help you out, except you're having that conversation via email.
I think that's a great answer to the question, because all of those things Ariana mentioned can be applied no matter what your brand voice is, really, no matter what you're selling, whether it's accessories, footwear, high fashion, affordable luxury, whatever it is, workwear, it could be anything. And then depending on what your brand value is, you can throw in other little things. So if your brand has a very personal voice from the founder, and you could say at least here in America, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and injustice is something that inequality is something that's on a lot of people's minds. So you can have notes that talk about that or share information and resources like that. If that's a part of your brand voice, of course, you can, two of the probably biggest things, one would be education and one would be storytelling. So telling the story behind a collection, telling a story behind different pieces, showing the inspiration behind it, whether it was a period in time in history or art or anything like that. And then educating, also another option is educating on, you could say, materials. You can go into like the lineage of the sheep where your wool came from that you made your tailored trousers out of, or anything like that.
Thank you. In fact, yes, and provide value, right? That's very important, very necessary nowadays. Like provide special value to consumers. And you said something very very important about oh my God, I forgot the word. I'm sorry, but about the other brands that are working, in the same level. So it's important to provide that value, right? Well, let's Pau read more questions we have here. Thank you.
Okay. So, guys, a few questions. I'm going to read the first one. It says, why do you suggest brands to work with digital marketing teams before than PR teams?
So this is an interesting question. They're both really important. However, when you receive PR, if the PR is directing to your website, then you want to make sure that your digital experience is completely buttoned up so that you can benefit from the press that you receive. How discouraging would it be if Vogue covered your brand and you had in one day 500 people visit your website, but you had nowhere to capture their email? Maybe they didn't purchase, and you didn't have digital retargeting ads up on Instagram, so you had no way to remind them about your brand. Well, those 500 people that hit your site, is essentially they're gone unless they remember to come back. So having a digital marketing strategy first can help you to capitalize on any and everyone who happens to visit your Instagram or your website after reading about you in a publication.
Okay, thank you, guys. The next question says, what are the top 3 things you look in order to make a collab with an influencers? Followers, interactions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the way that we approach working with influencers is slightly different than a lot of like influencer agencies. That's something that I'm actually very proud of when we work with influencers. One of the biggest, I think the first thing that we look at is aesthetic fit and the fit of content, you know.
One or the other.
Yeah, combination of both, one or the other. So the brand, our client, the brand that we're working with, how the content creator influencers, their feed looks, the types of things that they post, what is their vibe, right?
Yeah, because if the client, the goal is for the brand to be able to repost the image or use the image in their marketing because they're really proud that this person wore their clothing, then it's important that they actually like the image. And if the content creator's visual style doesn't match the brand's, then it's almost like the image, it goes unused. So the point of engaging with the influencer is lost.
Yeah. And then I think you can count that as one, maybe two things. We'll count it as one. So the second thing would be engagement rates. So how many likes are they getting? How many comments are they getting?
Relative to their number of followers.
Exactly. And so we'd much rather work with an influencer that has, 10,000 people following or 5,000 people following them, but, they have 500-600 people liking every post and 40 comments on every picture, then work with someone that has, 500,000 followers. But
it's the same number of likes.
But they have like 150 likes and 10 comments like that. That doesn't really do anything. The extra numbers don't really add much value. And then I think the third thing probably be follower count.
Follower count definitely matters. But really, for me, at the end of the day, it's like their authenticity. Do people believe what the influencer is saying, the brands that they're talking about? Is it in line with the influencer's like style and point of view, or are they doing things simply for the paycheck? Because we as consumers and followers, we start to notice if an influencer is veering from kind of the voice that they had before in order to work with brands and get paid. So they're doing a lot of advertising. Influencers that are able to still work with brands and get paid, but it comes off very authentic. For us, that is just invaluable.
Yeah, I take back what I said right before she said that. That authenticity is that's it right there. Looking at their feed and not feeling like they're constantly trying to sell something or posting things because they're getting something out of it, like they're trying to make money off of their followers.
Okay, perfect. And this is the last question. It says, when it comes to SMS, would you recommend adding a picture or two if those images are editorial or only text?
That's a great question, actually.
I can take that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So yes, adding photos helps. We see a higher click-through rate typically when there are photos attached to the SMS. However, people don't always want to get a lot of pictures sent to their phone. And depending on where your audience is based, they might not really even have like the cell plans in order to receive pictures constantly. So it's just good to be cognizant of that. We see success sometimes with text-based emails as well, especially if it's not just about selling, but it's about storytelling. It's about what they're doing with the product and what they recommend you do with the product. And that can obviously link to a more image-heavy web page. But plain answer to that question is, if you have an image, you typically see better results.
Yeah. And I will add to, if possible, to try to keep in mind that whatever you're sending, image, text, a combination of both, try to make it so that it fits. You click on the message and it fits on, you don't have to scroll, right? That's pretty important.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. We really enjoyed chatting with you all.
I hope everyone was able to take at least a little something that they liked away from it. And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want to dive deeper into anything, we love having, having chats.